Donald Trump says he is determined the US will return to the moon during his presidency. In just over 2 years, NASA's Artemis 3 mission is due to put humans back on the lunar surface for the first time in more than 50 years. A mission to Mars is also slated to follow if the moon landing is successful. But mounting astronomical costs and the threat China could land on the moon before the US could see Elon Musk's current economy drive stretch to the space race. Tom Clark has the details.
For more than a decade, America has been planning to send humans back to the moon. It didn't start out as a race, but China is now hot on America's heels with plans to put people on the lunar surface too. But today's America couldn't be more different from the one that sent Apollo astronauts to the moon. Private firms like SpaceX now dominate in terms of technology and efficiency. SpaceX boss Elon Musk doesn't just stand to benefit. Donald Trump has put him in charge of government efficiency. So where does that leave NASA's overdue and over-budget moon plans?
And liftoff of Artemis 1.
That project, called Artemis, used the giant Space Launch Systems rocket to send an uncrewed test flight around the moon and back. The first crewed moon landing is planned for 2027, but it's way more complicated than Apollo. A spacecraft called Orion, with a crew of 4 astronauts, will be blasted by the SLS rocket towards the moon. Waiting in lunar orbit is a human landing system, a modified SpaceX Starship, into which 2 astronauts transfer. Down go the landing party onto the moon's south pole for a 6.5-day mission. The astronauts then blast off to rejoin their crewmates in Orion and all travel back together to Earth after 30 days in space. Now, if you think all that's convoluted, you're not alone. This guy, performing the first privately funded spacewalk from a SpaceX capsule, is Jared Isaacman, Donald Trump's pick to be the next NASA administrator. He's a fan of moon missions, but critical of the expensive contracts with established defence firms that have bedeviled the Artemis programme. Most notably, this beast, the $23 billion SLS. The only rocket big enough to get the Orion capsule all the way to the moon in one launch. But what NASA doesn't mention is it's not big enough to get them onto the moon and home again. Hence the need for all that crazy changing trains in lunar orbit stuff. And now there are alternatives. Take Elon Musk's Starship, not specifically designed for the moon, but potentially cheaper because it's reusable. Then there's billionaire Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin with its New Glenn rocket, another partly reusable potential alternative to SLS.
If you're coming into the government with a mandate to seek government efficiency, that is a NASA poster child for inefficiency. I mean, it should not take 12 years and $20 to $25 billion to take existing space shuttle hardware and modify it into a different rocket.
And here's the dilemma for Donald Trump. Leaving Artemis alone undermines his cost-cutting agenda, but ditching bits of it late in the game might mean delays and China getting to the moon before them, something Trump is unlikely to accept. One solution: move the goalposts and go for a crewed mission to Mars. Mind-blowingly expensive for US taxpayers, but one that could please his tech billionaire backers.